Israel is in a state of deep delusion. So it's not an information economy, it's a disinformation economy. And this is what makes it possible for this zombie economy to keep trotting along, even though it doesn't really have any life in it anymore.
So it looks like Israel's economy not doing well. In fact, Dr. Shur is going to say it is a zombie economy. Let's listen.
I call the Israeli economy a zombie economy because every economic indicator, every analysis conducted by professionals is saying that the Israeli economy doesn't really exist anymore. It has collapsed to the point that no sane person should give Israel any credit. The bonds that Israel is selling around the world are sold for political reasons. The only ones who are buying these bonds are just trying to finance Israel's genocide and are not really interested in making an interest payments on these bonds, because it's very unlikely that Israel will ever be able to pay back those bonds. So this is a deeper level of crisis than we've seen in economic crises of the 21st century, like in Argentina or in Greece, where the economy collapses, but the state doesn't collapse because the state institutions continue to exist. The state can still rebuild the economy, maybe reissue a new currency, make some kind of debt repayment program. This is not the case with Israel because the institutions themselves are falling apart. But nevertheless, the killing continues. The soldiers continue to fight. Those soldiers who are still deployed in Gaza. And a lot of people in Israel are continuing to live their lives as if nothing has happened. And even what is really glaring is the stock exchange in Israel, which is rising. So these things, I think, are a lesson for us in how capitalist economy works. Because we live in a kind of information age in which material things don't influence the economy the way they used to in the 20th century. And people really assign value to things like stocks based on their predictions of the future. And Israel is in a state of deep delusion. So it's not an information economy, it's a disinformation economy. And this is what makes it possible for this zombie economy to keep trotting along, even though it doesn't really have any life in it anymore.
So, wow. Well, I have one more clip I want to play, and then we'll bring in Ryan. And so here is Matthew Ho. He was on the show before. You'd think he ran as a green or something. And but listen to what he has to say about the Israeli economy.
What is your impression of the Israeli economy today from the time you just spent there?
It's in really bad shape. I think we've talked about this before, Judge. The numbers, in a sense of seeing the money leaving the country, the foreign investment not going into it, the 40,000 plus businesses have closed, one of the 4 major ports in Israel going bankrupt, those types of things. But, just saw other numbers, almost 35% decrease in imports and a similar decrease in exports in the last year. So the numbers themselves show that Israel is in a perilous position. But there's a huge caveat to that, and I'll get to in a moment. But when I was there in Israel and in Palestine, you could see it. You could see this economic bleeding out occurring in real time. And the big thing where you see it is in the tourism. You see it in the fact that Israeli tourism is down about 75%. Ooh. And when you're in Jerusalem, it's empty. I'll give some examples. People may be familiar with this. Judge, we had a problem with our schedule one day because the Palestinians we were going to meet in Jerusalem weren't allowed to go in Jerusalem. This is a consequence of the apartheid policy.
That first, just let me stop it there. Tourism is down in Israel. You're kidding. You're kidding. They have fireworks every other night. How exciting is that? Am I right? They're so nice to foreigners. They'll even share their saliva with you, if you know what I mean. I mean, come on. Come to Israel for the food and the beaches, and stay because you support Palestine, and now you're in prison. Okay, hey, God, he's got more to say.
Of the Israeli government that Palestinians can't go places, Jerusalem or to other cities, what have you. So we had some free time. So we went to the Mount of Olives. And, it was a beautiful Friday morning. Sky was blue, probably about 68 degrees. There should have been 1,000, 1,500 people, on the Mount of Olives, as there normally would be. We were the only group there. We were the only group of people for more than an hour at that spot. And then we walked down the hill to the Garden of Gethsemane and went to the Church of Nations down there. The same thing, too. There was nobody else there. We went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. If anyone's ever been there, and for people who don't know, that's the site of Jesus' crucifixion and his burial. And normally you're there and it's like you're online for Space Mountain at Disney World, right? I mean, like it's a mob scene.
Right.
And no, it kind of reminded me of walking through a supermarket late at night. You know, there's some people there, but it's not very busy. So, I mean, you saw this over and over again. I mean, I can give you a lot of examples of places you go into, you talk to the restaurant owners, they've laid off all their staff. The hotel we were staying at, they had no visitors, no hotel guests for the 10 months prior to our arrival. And then after we left, they were shutting down again. So you can just see that the emptiness, the consequence of this war in terms of the bankrupting of Israel. And of course, then if it's bad for Israel, it's worse for the Palestinians. So the Palestinians who've been under an economic strangulation for decades by the Israelis, well, a fifth of their workforce prior to October 7th worked in Israel. And this affects Israelis as well. But since October 7th of 2023, that 200,000 Palestinian workforce has been unable to go into Israel to work. There's rumors that about 20 or 30,000 of those are still getting in because Israelis really do need them. But what you see then is in Palestine, in the West Bank, you see an unemployment rate of 60%. And we can go on with, different points. But the one caveat I want to mention, Judge, is, well, how is Israel surviving? How are they going to get by on this? And that's because of the United States loan guarantee. The fact that the United States is a guarantor of Israeli debt. And so since last year, in the last 13 months, you've seen a 300 to maybe 300 or 400% increase in the amount of debt, the amount of bonds that Israel has issued. And you say, who's buying these things? Why would they be buying them, knowing the reality of the economic situation, the military situation, the political situation for Israel? Well, it's because these bonds, this debt, is backed by the United States. We guarantee it. So it'd be like you or I getting a mortgage and having Elon Musk co-signing with us. And this is essentially where the Israelis come back on, why they're willing to go the way they are, why they're willing to allow themselves to be isolated by the world, to hurt themselves economically, to overextend, exhaust their military, to cause their own political chaos, friction. People talk about civil war. I don't think it'll get to that point, but it's also something that you just can't dismiss outright. And the point is that they can do it because the United States is going to continue to back them financially and be that guarantor, be that co-signer for them going forward.
So that's why Israel can continue to commit a genocide. That's why Israel can continue to be the terrorists of the Middle East and bomb Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Yemen, whoever they feel like bombing, they're going to bomb. And that's why they can be the terrorists in the Middle East. They can be the worst neighbor in the world. They don't have to live according to international law because they have the biggest bully in the world. The United States has their back. And even as their economy tanks and they issue debt, the United States is guaranteeing their debt. So, and there's a little bit more to this bond issue, but let me bring Ryan in. Ryan, what do you say about, what have you heard about the Israeli economy? And take it wherever you want.
I'm really glad you bring this up because it's something that I've seen discussed. I mean, it's very clear to see, any nation that's just expending this much resource nonstop, there's going to be issues like this. I'm glad you brought it up because I need to do more research on it to see how bad this is. I didn't know it was really to this level. I knew it was bad, but this is fascinating and alarming at the same time. Like, I think there's more to this in a lot of ways. Like, I think, first of all, to your point, think about the U.S. government doing this, especially now with the way the world's becoming aware of what Zionism is or what Israel's government's doing. For what benefit are they just, the main point is, they could stop this like every other reason we've made by stopping the funding of the bombs. This is another way. If they wanted to stop the genocide, they could. One of the only UK in a similar way has influence, but the US government could stop this like that. But the thoughts that come into my mind is, it's interesting because Israel, more than just the United States, it's a parasite nation. It's what it does. The ideology, it infiltrates, it manipulates, it outsources. You can see them building these Unit 8200 companies all over the world. But the thing that comes to my mind, and my point in that is that I imagine there's more siphoning of things in that way. But the idea of the transition coming, right? Israel has been bullying its way to the front of this kind of AI tech direction, so Silicon Valley, everything. And so what jumped to my mind is interesting is what if this is, kind of almost, or rather it's happening and they don't want it to, but now by design, they're just going to run it out and then do some kind of transition to some kind of digital currency or with the US backing. And maybe it starts there and that's the logic. Just a thought that jumped in my mind, but that kind of makes sense with where this whole thing seems to be going.
Come see us on tour in Rutherford, New Jersey, New York, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Appleton, Wisconsin, Rosemont, Chicago, Louisville, Kentucky, and Fort Wayne, Indiana. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.